All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to speak to you today and hope you'll join me. It is the free-for-all, Thursday free-for-all. That's the day this is live, Thursday at noon Eastern time, and that's when I usually am on live noon to 1 East Coast time. So if you want to talk to me, that's when you need to listen, Monday through Friday, generally, not always, noon through 1 p.m. And if you want to get the updates, just please click subscribe on the YouTube channel. Bottom right of your screen, I do always want many more subscribers. The more, the merrier, of course. And it is a dialogue, a colloquy here. We share our thoughts, we share our ideas. I thought that was exactly what happened yesterday with Eve Siegel, the investor who was promoting natural gas as a cleaner alternative to coal and petroleum. Now, I obviously don't share his sanguinary view of the use of natural gas, but he has a viewpoint that many share, and I thought it was important to provide it, and we did so, I think, in a collegial way. Ultimately, my view, of course, as anyone who's been watching my videos or listened to my radio program for more than a couple of episodes would know, is we have to move forcibly away from all fossil fuels. Yesterday, it's already long past too late. Today, we will start with a conversation about what's happening in Israel-Palestine. That's been my main focus, frankly, for the past couple of weeks. Tomorrow, I'm off. That's why we're doing, by the way, that's why we're doing the free-for-all today, back on Monday with Arlen. So, Arlen fans, you'll get your fix. You'll get your Jones for Arlen taken care of then. I was thinking about Ukraine, and I did do a little bit of research on what was happening there. There isn't a lot of news, which may be the result of all the attention on Israel-Palestine. My understanding is it may already be starting to get really cold in that area. Don't know. It just, I guess, depends. And with the climate cataclysm, global burning, I assume that falls will start later and end later everywhere, including in Ukraine. So it may be warmer. Obviously, it is warmer now than it was, say, 60, 70 years ago when the Wehrmacht got bogged down in Russia after the invasion there summer. I don't know exactly what's happening. My sense is that it's a stalemate. It continues to be a stalemate, but there may be more information coming. That will not be the focus of today's program, but I just wanted to let you know I haven't forgotten about that horrible war-torn region, that the horrors that it's suffering right now. I don't mean the region itself is horrible, but the horrible dynamic that is playing out there, the proxy war that the United States is waging with its allies, its NATO allies, against Russia, and the devastation it is bringing to Ukraine mostly. We're seeing similar devastation, perhaps at an accelerated rate in Gaza. And a lot of the discussion online, I noticed, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I want to bring it up, was a hospital that was bombed, I believe, Wednesday. Was that either yesterday or maybe it was even Tuesday? I'm not sure. Where 500 or so were reported to have been killed. And there's a big dispute. Was it an Israeli bomb or bombs, or was it friendly fire from Hamas? And as far as I can tell, there's no definitive answer. U.S. intelligence says they think it was probably Hamas, but I don't know that they're trustworthy in the least. I would say they're not very trustworthy. We just don't know. And I would say in the end, obviously it doesn't matter to those who are dead, but ultimately those deaths do have to be laid at the feet of Netanyahu and the Israeli parliament for its blatant disregard of all human rights, of all, quote, rules of war, end quote, to the extent there are any. In fact, it's not really even a war. This is an occupied territory that's under Israeli control that they're destroying right now. Now, it may well be that the missile that leveled the parking lot and did a lot of damage to the hospital was Hamas fired, but it was a direct response to the Israeli retaliatory strikes against Gaza. So does it really matter in the end if Israel wasn't pummeling, pounding, destroying, leveling Gaza? That hospital wouldn't have been impacted by the parking lot missile or bombs that did cause so much damage and killed scores of people. I understand the 500 estimate is also being challenged. But let's talk about what we do know. This is from your AP. Today, Israeli airstrikes pounded locations across the Gaza Strip early today, including parts of the south that Israel declared as safe zones. So think about that. Remember, Israel dropped leaflets and said to the Palestinians in what they call northern Gaza, so it's really, I guess, northeastern Gaza, the strip that's closest to Israel. It's a very small area. I don't know, 7-10 miles from one end to the other along the Mediterranean Sea. So north, south, I mean, it's smaller, I think, than New York City. It's size of Manhattan, something like that. So for them to claim, probably smaller than Manhattan, for them to claim Israel to say, oh yeah, go to the south and you'll be safe. I mean, it's all very contiguous. But even to the extent that Israel said, okay, our north, there was an artificial line drawn. They're bombing south of that line. They're targeting the Israeli Defense, where the Air Force is targeting the region where they told Palestinians you'll be safe. How is that in any way not a war crime? So in Khan Yunis, a city in southern Gaza, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had sought shelter, Israeli bombs hit. Okay? That's what Israel's doing right now. 12 dead, 40 wounded. This is southern Gaza, to the extent there is a southern Gaza. I mean, words again fail. It is just, and we're talking about a people. I'm Jewish. I've always been proud. I'm not proud of being Jewish. I've always been proud of being Jewish. But this is, my people that I've always believed were cultured, intellectual, and frankly, gentle, not war-making people. And look at what we're doing. I mean, the oppressed have become the oppressor. It is, again, I can say words fail me. And if they fail me, that's pretty amazing, because words almost never fail me. But it's just an absolute horrific situation. We'll go to the video in just a sec. I do want to get that on for you. From, let's see, do it right now. So we have this report. You're on the scene. I do think the video does provide you with some real, yes, hopefully additional insight into what's happening in now southern Gaza, which is supposed to be, Israel had said would be, that's where you go if you want to be safe. Not so much.
Now, the UN is accusing Israel of showing a flagrant disregard for the lives of civilians after it bombed a Gaza school where thousands were sheltering, killing at least 6 people. It says no place is safe in the crowded strip, which is rapidly running out of food, water, fuel, and medical supplies to treat its 12,000 wounded. 4 days ago, Israel told Gazans to move south for their own safety, but today it bombed just outside the cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah, where hundreds of thousands have taken shelter, killing dozens of people. Hopes of a US plan to secure safe passage for aid to come into Gaza via Egypt's Rafah crossing have so far come to nothing. It remains shut a week after closing because of the airstrikes. Gaza's health ministry says those strikes have now killed around 3,000 people, almost a third of them children. That's more than double the number Hamas killed in its attacks on Israel, and fueling fears of a wider war. Ongoing clashes along Israel's northern border with Lebanon, the military trading fire with Hezbollah, which, like Hamas, has been designated a terrorist group by many countries. Israel has already evacuated villages along the border. Today it killed at least 4 Hezbollah fighters it said had tried to cross the fence to plant an explosive device.
All right, so Israel killed many more children in its retaliatory strike. They're obviously innocent. They had nothing to do with Hamas being the political arm of Gaza, the representative of the Gazan people to the extent it is. There's no proportionality. And again, the original attack by Hamas, not defending it, but trying to understand it and put it in context. Obviously, the people who are killed, they're killed. It's awful. I lament lives lost, innocent and guilty, of course. But what are they supposed to do? What options do they have? Doesn't mean it's okay to kill innocent people. But again, to recognize that you have 2+ million people herded into a tiny area that are impoverished, that are constantly under attack, barrage, very little freedom of movement, very little. That's Israel's keeping them in a prison, and they've done nothing wrong. It's horrific. And as I said, as somebody who wants to believe my people, my co-religionists are good. This is a hard one to follow. All right, if you want to join me, love to talk to you. 240-363-7190. Love to talk to you on the free-for-all. 240-363-7190. Our President Biden in Israel. So let's talk a little bit about his trip. Or actually, he's not there now. He was there. He was recently, just yesterday, and I may have left early this morning. I'm not sure the exact timing. Should know. So if I'm going to do these live streams, I should know. But I'm not sure when he left. But here's the headline from our friends at the Associated Press. President Biden wraps up his visit to wartime Israel with a warning against being consumed by rage. Now, I like that, right? I mean, that's what we want. We want our president to say to our close ally, perhaps our closest ally. Hillary Clinton famously said there'd be no daylight between the United States and Israel when she became president, which she didn't. Basically, Donald Trump pursued an identical immoral policy, in my opinion. But yeah, that's good. I mean, at least he's saying something that I guess is good. It is good. Don't be consumed by rage. The problem is, it's not taking. It's not. They are being consumed with rage. They're bombing the area Israel is, where they said that they wouldn't bomb, where you should go if you want to be safe, and they're killing people right now. Is Biden putting his money where his mouth is, or putting our money, I should say, not his, our money? Is our money going where Biden's mouth is? I guess that's kind of an open question, right? I mean, with Congress still incapable of acting without a speaker, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Which, by the way, this story doesn't redound to the benefit of the Democrats, and neither does, the situation in Israel, the way Biden's handling it, in my view, doesn't redound to the benefit of the Democrats, and neither does the situation in the House, even though that involves the Republican inability to choose somebody to lead the lower house in Congress. So Biden, though, back to Israel, talking about helping the war-torn area, or at least the violence-torn, if not war-torn region, Israel-Palestine. So they're going to ask for $2 billion in additional aid for Israel and Ukraine. I'm not sure how much goes to each, but let's just assume $1 billion each. And then $100 million in aid to Gaza and the West Bank. So 1/10 as much is going to the Palestinians, even though they've suffered more than twice as many casualties, and the damage is incalculable. Certainly compared to what happened in Israel, where there was certainly the murders were, awful. But in terms of the property damage, the damage to homes, far, exponentially greater in Gaza. And the poverty, of course. Israel has plenty of resources. Israel is a first world nation. They have plenty of resources to fall back on to help their citizens recover. Palestine has nothing. Nothing. And we're giving 1/10, maybe 1/10. All right, 240-363-7190 if you want to join me. I would love to chat with you. More from the media, which is reporting this pretty well. I mean, I feel like I'm learning a lot. I've learned a lot from reading all these stories. This is from Reuters. Reuters covering it from the Brits' perspective as best I can tell, which is interesting because I didn't realize, I guess Reuters a UK outlet? I guess Reuters is the, they must have all over the world bureaus, but I guess they're ultimately based in England or Britain. So here, Sunak, that's Rishi Sunak, the Indian Brit who is the prime minister, goes with Joe Biden to Israel to show support for Israel in its darkest hour. Obviously, the UK is following our lead. And Biden said, in other words, complete solidarity with the oppressor, Israel, rather than empathy, sympathy, and ultimately support, financial, and perhaps ultimately you need to, if not military support, UN support for peace. No, that's not what UK or US is doing. Biden said he secured a deal to allow 20 aid trucks to reach Gaza in coming days, not per day. And that's a fraction of the 100 per day that UN aid chief Griffiths told the Security Council were needed. So barely, look, if 100 people are going to starve a day, now 80 will starve, assuming there are 28 trucks every day. But that's not what this says. According to Egyptian security sources, some equipment was sent, is being sent today or was sent today to repair some roads. But there are 100 trucks waiting at the Egyptian side of the Gaza frontier. And Israel, at least for now, isn't going to let any of them through. So, I mean, it sounds better. I'm glad there's going to be some aid provided, but it sure seems like way too little and mostly way too late. More on Israel's response to the plan, which Biden said he had brokered. They're going to allow limited aid from Egypt, but none if it will benefit Hamas. How do they know that? How do they know it won't benefit Hamas? I don't understand that. And they're only going to open their checkpoints when all of the 200 hostages that are still in captivity are set free. So it sure doesn't look like that aid is going to start flowing in very soon. And they also said no let up in its bombing. So even to the extent that a few trucks get through from the Egyptian side, apparently Israel is going to be monitoring it as best they can to try to keep any of it from benefiting Hamas, which is, again, the political, not just the military arm of Gaza. It's also the political. So that seems like an impossible task to keep it out of all of it out of Hamas's hands. And they're going to keep bombing. So that just means more and more aid will need to come in. More and more people are going to be dead. Every place where Hamas is touching will be struck and destroyed. Wow. Sure doesn't sound like Israel isn't consumed. Sure doesn't sound like Biden's efforts to tamp down the retaliatory, vindictive psychology that has gripped at least the controlling party in Israel is being impacted in any way. The rhetoric we're hearing from Joe Biden is not changing Israeli behavior. What would possibly change it is withholding aid, conditioning additional financial support on ending the killing. That might work, but it's not something we're going to try, apparently. So, if you want peace, you're not getting it. If you're like me and you want the bloodshed to stop, it's not going to happen. If you're like the Palestinians who don't want to be killed, good luck. Keep your head down. I mean, I hate to sound so ironic and so bitter and cynical, but I don't know what else I got. I got nothing else. I want to compare Biden with the leadership in some of our competitor nations. So this is, let me tell you right now, last thing I want to do is sound like I'm praising the totalitarian Chinese and Russian political leadership, because I'm not. But their response is better, far from perfect, better than Biden's. China's Xi seeks swift end, calls for two-state solution. Now, I believe in a one-state solution. I don't think a two-state solution is viable. I don't think it's just. The whole region has to be one country. That's the end of it. Everyone has the same political rights, equality, political equality, economic justice for all. That's the solution. But at least Xi is saying this has got to end. It's got to end right now. Try not to be consumed with rage. And Xi makes it clear that the right priority is ending the bloodshed. The top priority now is a ceasefire to avoid the conflict from expanding or even spiraling out of control. By the way, we're seeing it expand, right? You saw the Hezbollah firing from Lebanon in the north and causing a serious humanitarian crisis. Well, sorry, Xi, it's a little too late for that. But yes, the top priority is a ceasefire. Why isn't Joe Biden saying that? What does that tell you about our leadership that Joe Biden can't say that? They've even embargoed Karine Jean-Pierre, his spokesperson, has already embargoed. You can't say ceasefire. Two 240-363-7190. Love to talk to you. If you disagree with what I'm saying, I'd love to hear from you. I know it gets, and I mean, it's frustrating for me when I see people critique some of my commentary, but then they don't come on and call. So yeah, call if you can. If you can't, I get it. It's fine. Just watch, just live stream, just click subscribe, right? Bottom right, blue and white square. If you haven't, click subscribe. That's what I really, that's what that's the best way you can show support for me, more so even than calling. I love the calls too. And it don't cost nothing. It is free. Where else do you get this kind of commentary? And by the way, you can answer that question. If there's a host you like better than me, please say who you like and why. You can put in the comments of this show if you like. All right, China and Russia have both called for We're not calling for a ceasefire. And have declined to explicitly condemn Hamas, cutting a stark contrast to the outpouring of support for Israel from the U.S. leaders across Europe. Yeah, why is that? Why aren't we, A, calling for a ceasefire? And why aren't we... I mean, okay, I get you can condemn Hamas. I don't agree with that. I think that they weren't a stop. They were stuck. Flying robots, start your show 3 hours earlier, and I'll call every day. I don't even know who Flying Robot is, but it ain't going to happen, Robot, and I'll tell you why. Because I need that time to prep. It takes a lot of time for me to, honestly, it takes me 2 hours. Generally 2 hours for 1 hour. They say, I've heard 3 hours. For me, it's usually 2. I got to get my stories straight and put them in some kind of an order. And I know I'm a little bit rambling. I'm not as, say, efficient and organized as you'll hear Hakeem Jeffries is. But I do the best I can, and I need that 2 hours. So we need to be the peacekeeper, right? We need to be at least calling, demanding peace. And we're doing just the opposite. It's, as a Jew, I'm shamed by what Israel is doing. I'm horrified by it. I have great empathy. I have great pity for the Palestinian people. And as an American, I'm, and I don't know what to say. I mean, I not my president, right? And I voted for Biden. I get the political realities. AIPAC is very powerful. AIPAC gives a boatload, I was going to say an S-load of money to Democratic politicians. I understand all that. The Israeli lobby is powerful. Jews are a very powerful, generally pro-democratic bloc. At some point, what matters is what's right. And Israel is wrong. And the killing that Israel is perpetuating is wrong. And we must, if we have any morality left as a nation, do what we can to stop it. All right. I want to move on to another program story here. And I mentioned this. So the House continues to be at loggerheads. They can't do anything because they don't have a leader. Jim Jordan, who was, I don't want to quite call him an insurrectionist, but certainly seemed to support Trump's bogus story that he somehow won, even though he clearly didn't. And again, this is something you don't get from other programs. Just to pat myself on the back. So I'll call out lies wherever they are. I like Jimmy a lot. I like Jimmy Dore most of the time. But he is not going to talk about how Trump just, was just completely full of it when he says, oh, I won. It was all, rigged against me. I mean, that's just crap. Let's face it. I call BS on that just like I call BS on Russiagate. Most people have to take sides. Oh, I'm against the Democrats, so I'm not going to say a word about Trump's, January 6th sort of lame insurrection efforts. Well, you should talk about it. You should talk about everything that's relevant. So here's your House fight. And I'm going to focus on my Congress member. This is a guy, the more I see of him, honestly, the more my stomach turns, the more repulsed I am, the more awful this guy seems. And a lot of people I know, oh yeah, we love Jamie. He's great. He's the best. I don't get it. All I try to do is talk about the facts. I really do. I try not to make it personal. I'm not saying it's not personal. Now I find this guy really, pretty nauseating, but I try to think, I hope it's based on facts. I hope that my negativity towards Jamie Raskin is based on the reality of the situation, not on some kind of personal animus. But who knows? Or that I have personal animus because I just don't like what he does. Just like that's what I say about Hillary. I don't like Hillary because of what she did to our country. You know, Arlen says to me, oh, we get it. You don't like Hillary. Yeah, I don't like her because of what she's done, because it's bad. It's harmful. She hurt people. That's why. That's why I'm mad at Israel, because they're hurting people. It's not, you know, it's not, oh, I don't like the whatever. I don't like your necktie. You kind of there was a microaggression that offended me. No, it's that you're doing things that are really, really bad. All right, let's go to Raskin. Here we go.
Speaker.
Would you be open to some kind of pact, some sort of deal struck to elect a speaker that was a Republican, but in exchange for, some sort of demands on rules or a vote on a CR or something like that?
Well, obviously, we favor Hakeem Jeffries. This was the 16th time we've voted unanimously. And
let me stop it. I just thought that was so funny, the way Chris Hayes there is like sort of snickers, like, of course, Hakeem Jeffries. How could you not favor him? Of course he should be the speaker. And you're all in it together, all of you Dems, unanimously. Like this is some sort of great thing. And I'll explore that a little bit more. But I just thought that was, the height of journalistic bias. Oh yeah, of course, Hakeem Jeffries. How could you not support the black guy for House Speaker? All right, let's play a little more of this now.
Passionately for Hakeem Jeffries. He's a super well-organized, efficient, effective leader, and you can take him at his word. He's totally trustworthy. But
all right, so yeah, he's totally trustworthy. He is trustworthy. I think that's fair. He's trustworthy if you're AIPAC. He's trustworthy if you're the securities and investment industry. I mean, he's made it very, very clear for a long time, and they are showing their loyalty to him. There you go. The top, and by the way, this changed a little bit. I think this is for the 2024 election cycle. So now the retired industry, so I guess that's like AARP, I'm going to guess, and nursing homes and the like, and I'm not really sure. It used to be securities was number one. In the 2022, it was securities and investment. But if you look after retired, which is basically, I think they're just trying to, make sure they protect Social Security, which I think is a risk if you're, if he's your leader. Wall Street, real estate, so Manhattan real estate, all those towers that keep going up, blocking everyone else's view of the rivers, and big law firms. That's where he gets his money. These are anti-people, anti-worker groups. Real estate industry that's making it absolutely unaffordable to live in Manhattan, or frankly, in the outer boroughs at this point. The prices are so high. The securities and investment firms that figure out every single way to squeeze a penny out of you and operate without any transparency at all. Goldman Sachs, I just was reading in a little bit of a dispute I had with Jeff. I was just reading, Goldman Sachs has its fingers in the student loan crisis. Is it hundreds of billions of dollars, I think now, that students and former students are in debt. Goldman Sachs, number one investment bank in the world, U.S. base, Wall Street. They're part and parcel of that. So yes, if you're a contributor, he's totally trustworthy. I just find it amazing to me that turns my stomach that the Republicans, people like Lauren Boebert, they're like, you know what? I'm not voting for Kevin McCarthy. He's not. I don't owe him anything. I owe the voters, my constituents in Western Colorado. People like Lauren Boebert, they're like, you know what? I'm not voting for Kevin McCarthy. He's not. I don't owe him anything. I owe the voters, my constituents in Western Colorado to choose the leader that I think is best for them and for our nation. Now, I totally disagree with who Lauren Boebert would pick, but she's making what I believe to be a principled, calculus. They're not, Kevin McCarthy isn't the right person. That's not who I was elected to vote for. That's what she's saying. And there's something honorable about that. There's nothing honorable about voting for this man to be your leader under all circumstances, regardless of whether, your constituents want him.
Would you be open to some kind of pact, some sort of deal struck to elect a speaker that was a Republican, but in exchange for, some sort of demands on rules or a vote on a CR or something like that?
Republicans that I could support on a principled power sharing basis, assuming that our caucus were to endorse that. And we operate as a caucus. We're not out there wheeling and dealing on our own. But
see, I don't understand. Why aren't you? I want you to wheel and deal on your own, Raskin. I want you to fight for a meaningful vote on progressive priorities, which is why we elected them. You said when you first ran, you were going to support Medicare for all. That's why I voted for you when you first ran for Congress, Raskin. You have done nothing to help make that a reality.
one of the things that I've said from the beginning is Liz Cheney would be a perfect choice herself. She was the chair of the Republican conference. She was the number 3 Republican for several years.
All right, so that's Raskin's choice. Raskin wants Liz Cheney. I mean, is it possible you could come up with a worse option? The torture defender. But she did support impeaching Trump after Trump had already been drummed out of office by the voters. And I guess for Raskin, that's enough. Doesn't matter if she supports waterboarding, pouring, making people think they're about to drown, making them stand in a corner with their hands up, humiliating folks based on their religion. That's okay with Jamie, right? Oh, yeah, you're totally fit to be the House leader, along with the representative from AIPAC and the investment banking and law firms, investment banking industry, real estate industries, and law firms. Those are fine. No, we got no problem with that. This is not who I want to represent me. All right, 240-363-7190. If you're somehow catching this, I'll take 2 more calls. If I get any, I'll be happy to take your call at this point. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up in just a minute. I'm going to wish you a great weekend. I'll be off tomorrow. Did want to platform my great friends in climate defiance. And this story here, again, not very favorable, I don't believe, to the Democratic Party. Here they are protesting Pete Buttigieg. He is, of course, the Transportation Secretary, green lighting these new export terminals, LNG. I guess our friend Eve Siegel likes that. I do not. This is just creating more cancer alleys, worsening those that are currently in existence, furthering our dependence on fossil fuels, exacerbating the climate catastrophe. That's what, as they call him, Petro Pete is doing. And here is how one of his handlers responds. This is a very, very brief video. Don't blink or you'll miss it. I do have a still, though, that shows you exactly what happens. Here are the brave protesters at Climate Defiance. And you can read their big news. Our organizer, Izzy, was brutally punched in the face. Here we go.
Stop, Petro Pete. Stop.
All right, let me show you that again. You can see the gentleman in the foreground, and I use the term gentleman loosely, attacking a woman here.
Stop, Petro Pete. Stop.
I mean, that is just absolutely, it's a crime. And will our law enforcement do anything. I doubt it. I believe this was in Baltimore at the Meyerhoff Center earlier this week. Let me play it for you one more time, then I'll show you the still. Here you go.
Stop. Stop.
Quite amazing. And here's the actual still. You can see the, they say punch. I guess it's an open hand, so I don't know if we call that a punch, but it's pretty brutal. That's what your government does to you if you protest the climate catastrophe. Obviously, completely in the pocket of oil and gas. This is your Democrat Party, completely in the pocket of the oil and gas industry. It's ugly. It's brutal. All right, that's what, I mean, people say, well, how come you're so depressed? Why can't you talk about happy things? I don't know. Seeing a federal cop who's protecting our Secretary of Transportation, who's supposedly nominally a Democrat, shoving in the face hard a climate protester who's trying to protect the future for our children. It's hard for me to be upbeat about that, folks. Sorry about that. That's just not easy for me to be like, oh, look, oh, how nice everything is. Oh, hunky-dory. No. It's just wrong. It's just, that's all it is. It's just wrong. And this is our democracy? I don't think so. I don't think that's where we are right now. All right, let's finish up real quick. I just wanted to get this poll in. I was interested in this. And this jibes. Now, not all the polls show this, so I'm absolutely cherry picking. The question is, does RFK Jr. help or hurt? Or does he help? A lot of people are saying, oh no, but he's got the Democrats are all in a tither or whatever, tizzy about RFK Jr. I am not a supporter of RFK Jr. I support Dr. West. You might see slightly different implications, but at least from NPR, Kennedy helps Biden. So if you look at this, when it's just Biden-Trump, according to NPR, and other polls show differently, and recent poll, even more recently, we see Trump leading Biden. But in this NPR poll, they're all very close, 3-4 points at most, favoring either Biden or Trump. But in this NPR poll, with it just Biden-Trump, you see Biden up by 3. But when you include Kennedy in that poll, RFK Jr. that is, suddenly you see a different result, which is Biden now up by 7. So Kennedy drawing a large percentage, high percentage, 16, which is very high for an independent. Probably will not get there, I'm sure. But what's interesting about that from my perspective, and maybe from yours, is that he is drawing significantly more from the Republican Trump. And why is that? Well, it doesn't surprise me. Kennedy's an anti-vaxxer. Kennedy has come out as pretty much of a libertarian in a lot of ways. He's pro, crypto. And those are more right-wing, more government, anti-big government views. I think they're kooky, especially the crypto. I get why people are so suspicious of big pharma. It makes sense. Ultimately, I don't go nearly as far as RFK Jr. I'm glad we don't have smallpox anymore. But I think he might make the argument, well, that smallpox was a vaccine that was produced by government action and by nonprofits, not by for-profit healthcare. So I get the skepticism of big pharma. I certainly don't get any support for crypto. But the bottom line is RFK Jr. is at least as likely, in my view, more likely to draw support from Trump than from Biden. Would that happen with Dr. West? I don't think so, because I think most people who would vote for Dr. West, myself included, aren't going to vote for Joe Biden anyway. I don't think that's the case for Trump voters. I think Trump voters are disgusted with the status quo. They want something different, anything different. If it's Trump, fine. From their perspective, anything's better than Biden, anything's better than a Democrat. But hey, they don't like Republicans much either. So if they've got the choice of a independent like Kennedy, they'll vote for him. I don't think that's true for most Biden voters and most Democrat voters. I think a lot of you who support Biden, people like, and this is not to cast aspersion, people like Arlen, Catholic Jack, others, you really believe that Joe Biden's on your side. You really think he's going to make things better. I don't agree. I don't share that view. And therefore, I'm not going to vote for him no matter what. Folks, have a great weekend. Sorry about the technical problems we faced earlier. I'll be back Monday with Arlen, and thanks for being part of Halitics. Again, please, if you get a shot, if you get a chance, do click subscribe in the bottom right.